He was the youngest man in his unit, a farm boy from South Dakota with a knack for mechanics and a quiet, unassuming demeanour that made him practically invisible. He'd never set eyes on the ocean, but now here he was, a member of the crew aboard the USS Canberra in the Gulf of Tonkin, when late one night a freak accident sent him tumbling into the dark oil-slick waters of the South China Sea. In all, 271 US Navy sailors were lost in the waters off the coast of Vietnam between 1965 and 1973. And of all those, only one went into the water and ended up in a prisoner of war camp. But the Viet Cong didn't realise quite what they had dragged ashore and into the heart of their operations. He didn't fight with a rifle, he didn't lead a platoon. Instead, this new prisoner did something far more dangerous. He started remembering. This is the story of the man who memorised an entire war, one detail, one name and one life at a time, and provided vital intelligence to the Pentagon. I'm Steve, he's Neil, and this is
Honourable Mentions!
Honourable Mentions.
Hello, listener. You're thinking, get off. I want the main act, the main event. Well, let's see if he's there, shall we? Shall we see if we can call him out from under his little hutch? Tempt him out with some cake and a bit of carrot. Hello, Neil.
Hello, Stephen. I love the cake.
What sort of cake do you prefer? What's your favourite cake?
No, I'm quite fond of a bit of carrot.
Bit of carrot. So I offered you a carrot as well.
Carrot cake, you goon. And red velvet cake as well. Very nice.
Oh, red velvet. My favourite is millionaire shortbread.
That's not a cake. That's a shortbread.
I'm a bit of a connoisseur of millionaire shortbread. I like it so the chocolate cracks. It can't be too soft. It has to crack.
It's not a cake, even. It's not a cake, it's a bread. Short bread.
There, Mr. Pedantic. All right, Neil. Here's a little quiz for you. Roald Dahl.
Yeah.
Sophie Dahl. The Dalai Lama. And Dala Pizza. How many more famous Dals can you name, please go?
Well, there's a curry dish, which is something dal.
Lentils.
Yeah, with lentil. Or crocodile.
Crocodile. Oh, that's a good one.
Apart from that, I don't know any more.
Not even seaman apprentice Douglas Hegdahl.
Well, I didn't think he was that famous, but I could have said that, but I didn't.
You didn't?
No.
What would you have said about him?
I would have said that he was a sergeant.
Would you? Even though seaman apprentice Douglas Hegdahl?
That's him, yeah. Seaman apprentice.
He wasn't even a sergeant.
Whatever that means. Apprentice seaman.
Let's find out, shall we? Because today's story, if you're sitting comfortably, is all about Douglas Hegdahl, seaman apprentice.
Seaman apprentice.
Are you sitting comfortably?
No, I'm sitting comfortably, thank you.
Doug, I'm going to call him Doug. Do you mind if I call him Doug?
No, I'm sure you won't mind.
Doug joined the Navy in 1966.
When we won the World Cup.
When England won the World Cup and the USA were paying no attention. Not long after, he graduated from high school in his hometown of Clark, South Dakota, US of States.
Yeah.
So he joined the Navy not long after he left school. The thought was that if he joined up now, he wouldn't get drafted and 6 months later find himself hacking his way through thick, sweaty, mosquito-ridden jungles, listening out for the Viet Cong.
A bit like Northampton then.
This way, Doug could control his destiny and see the world, especially Australia. He'd always wanted to see Australia, Doug.
Clang. So before you will say, oh, I've been there.
I wasn't going to say a word about that. So when he handed his 4-year enlistment papers, Doug didn't hesitate to sign on the dotted line.
Took him a long time to get them there, didn't it? 4 years?
4 years is a long old time, wasn't it, to get those enlistment papers? But he thought to himself, you see, that if I'm in control, I can say where I want to go and what I'm signing up for, rather than just get press ganged into going to Vietnam and end up doing what I'm told to do. So he took his oath in Fargo, North Dakota, at the Armed Forces Examining Entrance Station. Do you know that?
Never heard of it.
That's just opposite the MacDonald's.
Oh, okay.
And shipped out to boot camp in San Diego.
San Diego.
San Diego.
Yes, where the great Ron Jeremy lived. Not Ron Jeremy, Ron Burgundy.
Ron Burgundy.
Mm.
Stay classy.
Yeah.
Ron Jeremy was something else altogether, wasn't he, Neil? He wouldn't want anything sandy in his Diego, that's for sure. After that, the plan was the Navy would send him, this is Doug.
All right, yeah.
Not Ron Burgundy, Stay Classy San Diego, would send him for more training to eventually take up a desk job as a postal clerk.
Wow.
From Clark. But that didn't quite happen, Neil. The American war in Vietnam, or Nam.
Nam.
You weren't there, man. You don't know, man. So Doug went home to Clark for Christmas. Then, at the beginning of 67, this is 1967,
right.
He was off to San Diego, then on his way out to Nam. In February, he found himself aboard a vintage World War II guided missile cruiser on its third tour of the Vietnam War. Someone went round into the jungle with the Viet Cong were with a brightly coloured umbrella and were holding it up, and then people followed them about.
That's nice of him.
The USS Canberra would be the closest thing to anything Australian he'd get during his Navy career, and life on board was nothing like he'd been sold.
So there's no barbecues and throwing strips on the barbie or anything like that then?
And not everyone else was called Bruce.
Yeah.
And there were no Sheilas.
All right.
And you couldn't go surfing. But apart from that,
yeah,
he didn't even have the desk job he joined up for, Neil.
Yeah, see, what are these desk jobs?
Poor old Doug.
What is a desk job? Do you just work on like men desks? You just literally just work on a desk like you used to have at school when you flip the lid up?
Well, Neil, have you been listening? What have you been doing for the last sort of 5 minutes?
Trying to stay awake.
Yes, because if you'd have been listening, you'd have understood that he wanted to be a postal clerk.
Yeah.
In the Navy.
Right.
And a postal clerk is what one would call a desk job. So he does it from a sitting down position behind a desk.
Okay.
Anyway, what do you know? You weren't there, man. Instead, Doug was what they called a grunt.
Pardon?
Doug was what they called a grunt.
Oof, that's close.
This is G-R-U-N-T.
Right. Oof.
Swabbing the decks, painting everything that didn't move, scrubbing the toilets, and, most importantly, lugging around the ammunition. And there was lots of ammunition to be lugged.
I imagine there was, yes, during the war.
As an ammunition handler,
like that.
You like that, do you? Mm-hmm. What do you like about that?
Well, you can handle ammunition.
You take that from the title of the
responsible job, isn't it?
It is a responsible job.
There you go.
So responsible, he had to work split shifts, 12 hours at a time, stuck below decks, wrestling heavy gunpowder sacks and shells for the 5-inch guns.
Not that big then, were they?
Bit like yours. No, the guns themselves, Neil. Yes, I can see where you've got me confused here. A bit of miscommunication between reality and your brain again. So what's going on here, Neil, is the guns themselves were much bigger than 5 inches. What was the 5-inch part was the diameter of the gun barrel that the shells were placed into.
Ah, okay. Well, just say, no, I'm not going to go there. I'm not even going to go there, Steve.
You don't know anything. You weren't even there, man. You don't know anything, man. He also had to play his part. We've already done that joke, haven't we? He also had to play his part and take regular spell on watch, sometimes on the midnight to 4 a.m. graveyard shift.
Ooh, that's not nice.
The opportunity to find uninterrupted sleep of any kind was something to be treasured. So the grunts, he says carefully again, would try to get their heads down whenever they could.
That's to get their heads down in a grunt.
Spending all those hours in the artificial lights below deck and sleeping at irregular times, Doug sometimes forgot what day of the week it was and even whether it was day or night.
I think he did.
They ate, slept and worked in the dimly lit, hot, farty, smelly, overcrowded enlisted men's quarters. Yes, this is the quarters of the ship, the USS Canberra, not your underpants.
Huh.
Although it could be dimly lit, hot, farty, smelly, probably not the overcrowded bit. I imagine they've got quite a lot of room. But other than that, it could be your underpants. There is no air conditioning, little emphasis on personal hygiene. Oh, back to your pants again. Doug and the crew squeezed into the already tight space as they'd all tried to stay out of sight of the officers and NCOs.
So they were tight grunts.
They were tightly packed grunts.
Mm.
In the early hours of April the 6th, 1967, Doug lay awake in his bunk, needing to sleep but unable to make it happen. They call that insomnia.
Do they?
That's what they call it. The Canberra's guns were pounding enemy positions more than a dozen miles away on the Vietnam mainland.
Mm.
It just needed a spotter somewhere or a forward air control pilot to radio a report of something suspect and the ship's guns would start blasting away. It can happen any time, day or night. Who knew what they were firing at and who cared anyway?
Yeah, exactly. Then they'll need the ammunition handlers.
That's a very good observation, Neil.
You're welcome.
Considering you weren't even there, man.
No.
That's a very good observation.
Common sense. You put two and two together, don't you?
Doug had spent that day below decks breaking his back, shoving and hauling ammunition for the ship's 20-foot-long guns.
Told you he's shoving ammunition for him. Ammunition handler. Told you.
You thought they were 5-inch guns. They're 20 foot long now.
Wow, that's more like it.
He heaved the 5-inch round shells into the breeches of the guns and followed them up with 2 cloth bags filled with gunpowder.
Ooh.
One after the other, after the other, after the other. Then the gun crew would slam the breech shut and fire.
Fire!
Star Wars, you may fire when ready.
Yeah. That's when they're powering it up.
The noise was incredible, Neil.
I know.
But for all his sweat and muscle, Doug had never actually seen the guns in action, and the guys who had told him to go at night because the nighttime firing truly was something to behold.
That noise I just made reminds me of the noise that you make when you can make somebody poo.
For the listener, I've just pulled one of the when you do that face when you have to, someone makes you squint. They say something, you think, what the? It just makes you squint. That was the face I just pulled.
Yeah, similar. I'm just putting a warning out. It's like a polite warning. You know, sometimes you see a start of a program, they'll say, this program contains rude language, blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying I've made that noise and it could happen that it makes someone poo. So I apologise for that.
I'm doing the squinty face again, listener. Is it even worth questioning him or should we just move on, listener? Let's move on, shall we? Because I'm kind of leading clue. So as he couldn't sleep anyway, Neil.
Yeah.
And he didn't need a poo either.
Right.
Doug decided that this was the perfect opportunity to go and take a look at the nighttime firing for himself.
Well, we would, wouldn't you? It's like a fireworks show.
Exactly. You'd imagine that's what it would be like.
Mm.
He was 6 foot tall, or 1.8 metres, and a well-built fella too. So it took a moment to unfurl his body out of his cramped bunk and to shuffle forward without banging his head on no metal ceilings, as anyone who's been aboard a ship or a boat for military purposes, able to verify that they're very low ceilings. So over here in the UK, listener, we've got HMS Belfast, which sits upon the Thames as a visitor attraction, and you can go on board it. And I think it was Second World War, HMS Belfast. But yeah, very low ceilings, one would say. He didn't bother to pick up the black framed spectacles he wore. This is Doug.
Right.
He didn't bother to pick up the black framed spectacles he wore to correct his nearsightedness. He stuffed his wristwatch and wallet into his locker and made his way to the gun line to take in his first night bombardment. You picturing this now?
Yeah, I'm just watched him taking in his first bombardment.
Outside, the deck was made from teak wood, slippery underfoot if you're not careful. And it was only illuminated in flashes by the booming guns.
Ooh.
There was not another sailor in sight. Doug headed towards one of the massive 5-inch gun mounts. You'd like to probably give the listener an idea at this point of how that all could have sounded. Well, listener, I don't know about you, but I feel almost like I'm there. Perhaps we should do that again, listener. Rewind and play that bit again, but get some water and just flick a little bit of it into your face.
Yeah.
And it will be almost like you're standing on the deck. Do you know, Neil, when you've finished covering us all in your bodily fluids, what straying too close to the massive guns aboard this ship could do to you, perhaps?
I would imagine
while
it would
they're
do some
firing.
damage to your ears, for a start, for your hearing.
Well, the shockwaves can blow out your eardrums if you're unlucky. Yes,
I imagine that would be
true.
quite loud.
The shockwaves can also knock you off your feet or even overboard. The next thing Doug knew, he'd been sent plunging into the cold, salty water.
Oh.
Would you like to perhaps reimagine that for the listener?
Ah, shit! Ah, splash.
That's very good. We don't need these podcasts with all this high-tech special effects.
If you've got the talent, you can make anything sound good, can't you?
You can make anything sound real. I mean, to me, that just sounded like being there. Doug, Neil. Doug. What do you call a man with a spade on his head?
Doug.
What do you call a man without a spade on his head?
Who cares?
Douglas. What do you call a man with no arms and no legs in the water?
Bob.
What do you call a man with no arms and no legs propelling himself through the water?
Their name.
Clever Dick.
That's really good.
Anyway, Douglas, our friend Doug Hegdahl, he had no life preserver, no ID, no glasses, and only the clothes he wore to lay on his bunk. Spluttering with a mouthful of salty seawater, Doug waved his hands and screamed for help as loudly as he could, but it was dark, Neil. And as we've said, the noise was immense and there was not a soul on deck. Doug said, Neil.
Why did Doug say Neil? He doesn't know me.
It comes the territory of being an international celebrity.
Oh, all right, okay.
Doug said, Neil.
See?
I remember seeing the ship a long time afterwards as I was treading water, then the Canberra was gone over the horizon.
Oh, no.
No one on board realised he was missing until the morning roll call some hours later, when seaman apprentice Hegdahl did not turn up at the muster. The officers ordered a search of the ship. 90 minutes later, the search ended without sight of him. After making a second search and finding his spectacles and other belongings neatly stored away, the ship's officers concluded that he must have gone over the side.
I could see why they come to that.
Although some accounts say it was a couple of days before he was reported as missing. But whatever, he was missing, all right.
It sounds like it, but we know they didn't.
We know now what happened.
Yeah.
Doug wasn't just tall, but he wasn't that tall, was he? It's not like he could stand on the bottom or anything.
6 foot.
He's able to swim. Doug wasn't just tall, he was a big, strong guy who wrestled heavyweight and played on the football team at Club High. But more importantly, for his current situation, he was a good swimmer.
That's good. That'll help, won't it?
And in these situations, Neil, what would you do in this situation? There you are. You're in the middle of the South China Sea. You're watching Vietnam and your ship exchange gunfire. What would you do?
What would I do? After fouling myself, what I would do, because I'm quite good with animals and things like that, I would tame a gull. I would lure it down like this with a finger out, like that. And then this little gull will come along and it'll pull me along through the water.
That's your plan, is it?
Yeah, that's what'll happen.
Okay, well, that's a good plan, Neil. But it's not quite the same plan as the US naval personnel had in 1967.
You see, well, perhaps you should have spoke to me, shouldn't I?
Their plan was that if this happened to you, you were to remove your work overalls to form a basic float to place behind your head and keep you afloat in the water, which Doug did. After a few hours of drifting, even Doug's big farm worker arms were so tired that he could barely move them, and slowly he began to sink.
Yeah, you see, you should use seagull.
Should have used the seagull, shouldn't he? Or he could have tempted in a porpoise.
No, they're harder to tempt. Seagulls, you can promise them a chip.
When you get to shore.
Yeah. Just say.
Or a French fry for our American listeners.
French fry. If you get me there, I'll buy you a bag of French fries or chips, and they'll be like, oh. And they'll get you there.
Is that the noise gulls make, or is that a pigeon you're thinking of?
A pigeon, that one, but I struggled up. Skull noise that they make. Like that.
You do struggle, yes. Each time Doug went down, and we're talking about in the sea here, each time Doug went down, the cold water brought him back to life with a jolt, and he fought his way back to the surface.
Yeah, we're doing it. Good lad. Keep going, Doug.
As dawn broke like a stoplight shimmering over the South China Sea, Doug could make out what he believed to be a shoreline. He summoned the energy to start swimming, which was your other plan.
Yeah.
But no matter how hard he tried, how frantically he kicked his legs and pulled back at the choppy water, the land refused to come any closer. That's probably because that's not how swimming works, is it?
You should learn the art of talking to animals, and it'll be fine.
Animals or just birds? Or just seabirds?
And all sorts. I mean, if you're struggling, you could always try and grab a starfish.
Rusty or any kind, or a sponge, or a bob, or a squarepants.
Well, a mermaid could have swum by.
In the end, with tears streaming down his cheeks, Neil, how did he know that? Because his face would have been wet.
Yeah.
Doug gave up and rolled on his back. He floated, staring at the sky, thinking about sharks and South Dakota and his God. He's preparing himself to die there, wasn't he?
I think he was, yes. It sounds that way, doesn't it?
Poor old Doug. It was a whole 4 hours later, when he was utterly exhausted, dejected, sunburnt, and astounded that he was still afloat, when he heard faint voices closing in on him.
Ooh.
It's probably one of these tourist guides that we spoke about earlier.
Probably seen an umbrella stuck in the air. This way!
With a sudden burst of hopeful energy, he pulled off the white T-shirt that had soaked tight to his skin and waved it over his head.
Yeah.
He saw men on a primitive fishing boat, and they saw him, hauled him in and brought him to the shore.
That was nice of him.
Doug lay on his back in their boat, almost delirious as they jabbered away in their language, deciding to turn him over to the North Vietnamese Army.
That wasn't very nice.
I can tell you they're an absolute shower, a positive shower.
Doug, you remember Doug?
Yeah, I've got Doug in my heart.
Doug didn't think he was being captured, he said. I thought of myself as being rescued 2 days after being pulled off. 2 days after being pulled off from the boat and onto the shore. Whew. I thought, that's a greeting, isn't it? I thought that was Thailand you went to for that sort of thing. 2 days after being pulled off from the boat and onto the shore and having been all but clubbed to death by his captors, Doug was inside the dreaded Wallow prisoner of war camp, the one US prisoners called...
Go on, Wallow.
The Hanoi Hilton. His reputation for the brutal, inhumane treatment of inmates sent a shiver down the spine of Americans everywhere.
So they all got a book of Northampton as soon as I got there.
They weren't that cruel. What happened was men were hung upside down on meat hooks for days on end and regularly beaten. Every prisoner was shackled, starved and deprived of any type of comfort.
Some people might like that.
Doug was the youngest and lowest ranking person there. The joke around camp was that he held the record among the men in the Hanoi Hilton for the lowest altitude bailout. They knew how to pass the time, didn't they? The North Vietnamese interrogators told Doug he was a spy, and they didn't believe his tale of falling off a Navy ship for 1 second. And to be fair, who would?
Exactly, you wouldn't, would you?
How did you get here? I fell off a massive, great Navy missile.
Yeah, of course you did, sweetheart. Of course you did.
No matter what they did or how hard they pressed him, Doug never once veered from the truth, which was that he did fall from the ship. And he convinced them that he really was just some clumsy, lowly enlisted grunt, who had somehow managed to fall off a World War II cruiser. When he told them that his father was a farmer from South Dakota, they asked how many water buffalo he owned.
Idiots.
None, said Doug, and the interrogators couldn't believe it. This guy was poorer than poor.
Well, they perhaps asked him that question thinking if he's a farmer, he knows they won't have water hogs, what do they call them? Wildebeest, what did you say it was?
Water buffalo.
That's it, water buffaloes. They'll think, well, there's no good there, is it? So they'll say, how many water buffaloes you got? And you've got none. Well, he is a farmer. Well done. Good answer.
And they thought, you see, that in Vietnam, even the poorest of poor farmers have a single water buffalo. This guy, he didn't even have any. So they thought he really must be some sort of really down on his heels farmer, this fella. It was clear that he had no knowledge about anything much at all, let alone the intricacies of US naval operations. So his guards began calling him the incredibly stupid one.
Incredibly stupid one.
It's a catchy nickname, isn't it? This was all before you were born, Niels. Don't take it personally.
I was about to say, was that your name, wasn't it? That's what they call you a lot of the time, wasn't it?
Me? It's better than people shouting, "Oh, you massive grunt," like they do you in the street. But Doug had quickly figured out that it would be to his advantage to act incredibly stupid because, by and large, the guards left him alone.
Yes. See, so he wasn't stupid, was he?
In the heat of the day, even the North Vietnamese sought shade, and while all the prisoners were shackled to the walls of their dark cells, Doug was out sweeping the yard, watched over by just one guard.
Right, that's good.
Whenever that guard was distracted, Doug would grab a handful of dirt, open up the fuel cap on one of the 5 trucks they had there, throw in the dusty earth, and put the cap back on.
Oh, the scamp.
In this way, he went unnoticed as he disabled all the enemy's transport inside the walls of the Hanoi Hilton.
Well done, him.
The Viet Cong tried to force him to write anti-American propaganda, but he convinced them that he was so slow and nearsighted that he couldn't function without his glasses.
Yeah.
So off they went to get glasses fitted in the city of Hanoi.
Oh, so they took him to an optician's then, got him sorted out.
But then, oh no!
What was it?
Oh no, Neil!
What?
When it came time to write his statement criticising the USA while wearing his new glasses, Doug confessed that he was barely illiterate. A special instructor was brought in to teach him, but Doug was slow, and the eventual statements he wrote were so full of grammatical errors and childish spelling mistakes as to be completely useless.
Clever man, clever man.
So the North Vietnamese tried to feature him in anti-American broadcasts instead.
Right.
They were determined to make this boy a star, weren't they? But Doug's performances were so wooden and stilted they wouldn't have convinced anyone.
Like yours then?
Have you know, my acting has won awards in my own head.
Yeah.
Thank you. Now, it's important to know this, Neil. Still there?
Yep.
Hello, Neil.
Hello.
The Viet Cong gave little to no information to the rest of the world about the men they had banged up inside the Hanoi Hilton.
Right.
Washington had no idea exactly how many Americans listed as missing in action were actually residing in the former French colonial prison. Crucially, neither did anyone's hopeful family members back home. But occasionally, the North Vietnamese would free prisoners for propaganda purposes or exchange. Back inside the Hilton, the American POWs maintained a chain of command, and Doug received orders from his commanding officer that he will be accepting the next available early release.
Right.
Now, Doug didn't want to take the next available early release because he said that there's hundreds of other men here who are more deserving than him. But his commanding officer said, no, this is an order, you are going. So my question to you, Neil. Why did stupid Doug, who couldn't write well enough or act well enough, have enough value to be the only ever American prisoner of the Vietnam War to be ordered to accept a release?
He was doing the reading.
You've alluded to it as we've gone on here in our conversation.
Yeah.
He was just pretending.
He was actually pretending to be thick, but he was actually very, very clever.
He was just pretending.
Yeah.
And he actually, Neil, get a load of this. He had an astounding memory.
Photographic?
Now, where do you want me to look? Shall I smile?
Photographic memory.
Oh, sorry. Yes. Well, no. And we'll go into this. but that's a good suggestion.
Thank you.
When imprisoned with, I was going to say lieutenant, but we're talking about Americans here.
Man.
So when imprisoned with Lieutenant Commander Dick Stratton.
All right.
Which sounds incredibly like Lieutenant Commander Dick Strap-on, but is Dick Stratton.
That's perhaps what it was, but he changed it.
Doug learned Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and was almost immediately able to recite it backwards at speed and without fault.
What? So it was like...
So
he knew where he lived?
No. I can see where you're coming from, but the Abraham Lincoln Gettysburg Address is not his house in Gettysburg.
That wouldn't be very safe.
It's where Abraham Lincoln gave a speech, a famous speech, during towards the end of the American Civil War there, when he said 20 years ago, that sort of stuff, whatever it was. That was his famous Gettysburg Address. And our friend Doug learnt it word for word and was quickly able to recite it backwards at speed and without fault. And so Stratton thought, aye, he thought,
yeah.
Aye, what have we got here?
Got a good name, yeah.
Useful. Doug was able to recall the names of most of his fellow prisoners, nearly all of them experienced pilots and navigators, along with their ranks, numbers, and any other bits of personal information. And when those Vietnamese guards drove him into Hanoi to pick up some new glasses, Doug, the little tinker, had only memorised the entire route so he could pinpoint the precise location of the Hanoi Hilton.
Wow.
He's a one, isn't he?
He's a clever man.
So at the beginning of July 1969, seaman apprentice Hegdahl and two others, a severely wounded Navy pilot called Robert Frischman, and Air Force Captain Wesley, let's get ready to rumble.
Wesley Rumble.
Yes. Who had serious, I knew you'd like Wesley Rumble, who had a serious back injury, were taken from their cells for a few forced weeks of fattening up and suntanning. Because even the Vietnamese didn't want to hand them over looking up. They were emaciated and beaten the crap out of for the last time.
They gave them a good suntanning and filled them with food.
On the morning of August the 5th, 1969, they were put into a van and driven to Hanoi's airport, where they were escorted onto a plane for Laos. What, you're erring now?
Why would you go on a plane that's full of louse?
You're thinking of lice.
Sorry.
Lice are the little insects that you get that used to bite people in the First World War, particularly in their uniforms. And Laos is a country in the Far East. Okay. As I think you jolly well know, and you're just being silly for the listener. You were showing off there now.
Yeah, absolutely.
When the three men and some US Embassy officials stepped out onto the tarmac, reporters mobbed them with a lightning storm of flashbulbs.
Took him back to when he fell off the ship.
Oh, yeah. He probably was having flashbacks. Frischman answered questions. All Doug said was that he mainly spent his time sweeping the camp, smoking and listening to North Vietnamese propaganda on the radio. Not a word about the fact he held 256 names, ranks, service numbers and personal information to verify each and every one of them in his head.
That's very good, isn't it?
The three men then flew to Bangkok, where they were taken to the US ambassador's guest house, given new clothes and a dinner of steaks and beer.
Nice.
Then came a flight to New York's Kennedy International Airport, and finally to Andrews Air Force Base near Washington, D.C. It was there Doug was able to provide the US government with the first definitive proof of which soldiers were actually being held captive, preventing the North Vietnamese from simply disappearing them.
Nice. So that saved their lives then, didn't it?
If the Americans knew that these people were still alive, And the Americans somehow, unfortunately, let the Vietnamese know that they knew these people were still alive.
Yeah.
And the Vietnamese couldn't really kill them off in the prisons or disappear them
No.
without looking like jolly bad people.
Yeah, war crimes.
In front of his debriefing officer, Doug took a deep breath, closed his eyes, and the names came pouring out in rapid fire. The debriefer asked if he could slow it down, but Doug said, no.
Yeah.
He said it's like riding a bicycle. You tip over if you stop. So the debriefer asked him to recite all the names again and turned on a tape recorder so he could later get them all on paper. Now then, Neil.
Yeah. Yeah.
Doug's first cellmate at the Hanoi Hilton was Air Force officer Joe Krecker.
Joe Krecker. Yeah.
And Joe was a master of mnemonic aids.
I thought they didn't come out until the 80s.
No, you're thinking of AIDS.
Mm.
This is mnemonic aids.
Oh, I just thought it was a different strain.
No, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
You might want to turn the camera around.
Yeah.
Old Joe taught Doug how to remember the names, ranks, service numbers, and information about as many inmates as possible to the tune of Old MacDonald Had a Farm.
Right.
So that's what a mnemonic aid is. It's where you learn things either like you'd have A is for apple, B is for
Bra.
bastard. Yeah, B is for bra.
Mm.
So that could be a mnemonic aid. Or it could be you'd sing the tune of Wee Willie Winkie. And you'd have all sorts of things tied to it. Some people have their memory palaces, don't they, that you go into.
Don't know.
But for Doug, he had Old MacDonald Had a Farm. So once Doug got in the flow, the whole song needed to come out. Old MacDonald had a farm, E-I-E-I-O, and on that farm was Lieutenant Commander Dick Stratton, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with a wife called Janice or whatever. So you get the idea with that, don't you know?
Yeah. Yeah.
But with this information, the Pentagon were eventually able to change the status of 63 men who were recorded as missing in action to officially being a prisoner of war.
Interesting.
But that's not all.
All right. Go on, tell me more, please.
In addition to the names, Doug, Frischman and Rumble, it sounds like a great solicitors, doesn't it?
Solicitors, that lot, isn't it?
Doug Frischman and Rumble told the Pentagon about the systematic torturing of the American POWs in Hanoi and reported many previously unknown details about life inside the Hilton.
Mm.
That critical information contributed to the Nixon administration, because they didn't do anything wrong, did they, the Nixon administration, turning up the pressure on North Vietnam to follow the 1949 Geneva Convention rules on the humane treatment of POWs.
Right.
And do you know what, Neil?
What? Go on.
Just a few weeks after Doug Frischman and Rumble, solicitors, were debriefed, the North Vietnamese cut right back on routine torture and life in the camps improved significantly.
For everybody else. That's nice.
As a US Navy historian once put it, the North Vietnamese made a bad mistake when they released Doug Hegdahl.
They did, didn't they?
On top of the bad mistake they made when they fished Doug Hegdahl out of the sea.
Hmm.
Doug's experience as a POW kick-started research into the importance of unconventional methods in resisting enemy tactics and supporting fellow prisoners. His ability to exploit his captors' assumptions about him demonstrated the value of adaptability and ingenuity in adverse conditions.
Yes. He worked well under pressure, didn't he?
He took part in the 1970 Paris peace talks,
Right.
accusing the North Vietnamese of torture,
Mm-hmm.
and eventually became an instructor at the US Navy's Survival, Evasion, Resistance and Escape School in San Diego,
Santiago.
alongside Ron Burgundy
Yeah.
and not Ron Jeremy.
Yeah.
He left the US Navy as a petty officer, second class. In later years, he became a human rights activist, eventually singing a flawless word-for-word rendition of his unique Old MacDonald Had a Farm at an event in 1998.
Wow. Remembered it all that time.
So that's what, 30 years, he'd still got it in his head.
Wow.
And so it said he can still repeat that song word for word to this very day.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can.
No, he can't. No.
Yes, he can.
No, he can't.
Yes, he can. Yes, he can. Yes, he can. So that's old Doug Hegdahl, Neil. The man they called the incredibly stupid one, who was anything but, and ended up passing vital information to the Americans about their fellow Americans in Nam.
And I also believe that he saved a lot of people's lives, or made lives a lot easier for people that was POWs as well, didn't it?
He did, and he did. I agree with you. He did save lots of people's lives. And he was there, man.
He was there, man.
He knew what it was like, man. Yeah, he knew, man. He knew.
Yeah, he knew.
So there's Doug Hegdahl.
Doug Hegdahl.
Just goes to show the next time you fall overboard on a very large Navy boat, it's not the end. There's still a chance for you to redeem yourself. So there you go, listener. If you are asked in the future how many famous Dahls you can name, you can add to Roald Dahl and Sophie Dahl and a crocodile and Dahl a pizza and the Dalai Lama with Doug Hegdahl.
Well done.
Thank you for listening to more of this slop that we churn out week after week after week. We hope you found that interesting, dear listener. But if you've got anything you'd like to say to the listener, Neil, please.
Yes, I would like to say something, Stephen.
Well, thank you, listener, for joining us. It's always a pleasure. We will be seeing you again next week, we hope, for another episode of
Honourable Mentions.
And in the meantime, you can catch us on your social media.
I would like to say a few words.
You can catch us on Facebook, or you can send us an email at honourablementionspod@gmail.com, where we are open to anyone to send us in some millionaire shortbread or suggestions for another episode. It could be someone you know, someone from your own ancestry, your own family tree, a neighbour, somebody who lived down your street, someone you went to school with. It could be anything like that. We are very, very interested in hearing from you. So please do get in touch. And if you want to make that easier for yourself, you can now get in touch with us as well using the rather groovy app we call Discord. We're on Discord now, listener. How cool are we? So that's it from us.
A few words.
And I don't know whether Neil got anything to say. You got anything to say there, Neil?
I would like to say a few words.
No. So bye, listener. We'll see you again next week. Bye.
Thank you for listening to Honorable Mentions, Hilarious History, although I have no idea what the hilarious bit was. I do know, however, how much Neil and that other one appreciate you and your support for their podcast. It is an Uncover Brothers production and was researched by Stephen Webb. Is she the other one? We think maybe it is. But Team Neil, though, am I right? Now, Honorable Mentions, we're having a few technical difficulties during the making of the Doug Hegdahl episode, and they've asked me to apologize if it didn't reach the high standards you have come to expect. People expect standards from that load of... You're kidding me. Anyway, you can contact them to complain on social media or at honorablementions@gmail.com. And finally, the theme tune was written and performed by Pepe and the Bandits. Please give them a listen wherever you stream your music. Yes, I did say that I liked them once. I was not lying. I said things that later on seemed to be untrue. Tricky Dicky Nixon. Out.
All I wanted to say was a few words.